Hi, it's Neil, Natural Juice Junkie. I'm here with 4 of the market leading blenders, and right now I'm about to make a soup in them. So we've got a Blendtec, we've got Vitamix, we've got the Optimum 9400 and the new Optimum G2.1. And what I've got in each and every single one of these machines is some garlic, some onion, carrots, coriander, a vegan stock cube, and some water. They've got exactly the same quantities of exactly the same ingredients. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to see how they get on making me a warm soup. Now the G2.1 actually has a soup program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire that off, and then I'm going to start all of the other machines and keep them running for exactly the same amount of time on their full speed. Now with the Blendtec, I can't leave it running consistently, so each time the program stops, I'm going to have to start it again. But the idea is to get a hot soup out of all of them. Also, these 3 machines each come with a tamper. If necessary, if the ingredients aren't moving, I will use the tamper to get them moving. But my initial plan is to see how they get on without that, because the Blendtec doesn't have one. And again, I want to do a fair comparison. So I'll only use the tamper if really necessary. So let's get this thing started. So let's get the soup program up and press start. And we're done. Now, first thing to say is the Blendtec, I actually lost count of how many times I had to restart the machine. It was at least 7, 8 times, maybe even like 9 or 10, I'm not sure. I literally lost count, but I was having to come back, press the start button. Also, if I feel through the jugs, and we'll get a better idea when we pour them out, if I feel through the jugs, I would say that the Blendtec is definitely the coldest of these warm soups. These 2 are about the same, and the G2.1 is slightly warmer. But let's pour them out. Now, one other thing to say, by the way, I didn't have to use a tamper on any machine. They all dealt really well with the content. So here is the Blendtec. You can see it's a nice smooth soup. Here's the Vitamix. Okay, now unlike the Blendtec, the Vitamix actually has steam coming off it when I take the lid off. Let's pour that one. Then we've got the Optimum 9400, which again, we've got steam as I take the lid off. And finally, the G2.1, which again, I've got steam. In fact, I've got a lot of steam with this one as I take the lid off. So how do they taste? So let's start with the Blendtec. It's cold. Taste of a carrot and coriander soup, which is what it was supposed to do, but it's cold. It's not. Now these are supposed to be raw soup, so only like warm as opposed to boiling hot, but that one is literally cold. It's warmer. Vitamix is definitely warmer. Very similar taste, similar kind of mouthfeel. Part of me thinks it needs to be a bit hotter still. Let's try the Optimum 9400. Almost identical to the Vitamix. Very, very hard to tell the difference. Similar kind of heat, similar kind of consistency, flavor, and everything else. And then finally, the G2.1. Noticeably hotter. Noticeably hotter. So In terms of the heating of the soups, the blending is pretty consistent across all of them. But in terms of the heating of the soups, these two are warm. And by the way, the program runs for 5 minutes. So it took 5 minutes of blending. The Blendtec is still cold. These two are warm. The Vitamix and the Optimum 9400 are warm. They're warm enough to warm you up, especially if you put like a bit of chili maybe into the recipe to warm you up on a cold day. But they're not what I would call hot. You know, they're just like above cold, if that makes sense. So they're just a little bit warmed. Whereas the G2.1 actually is a hot soup. You know, I could take that on a cold day and it would warm me up. Now, it's not like burning my mouth hot. It's not like stupid hot, but it's like proper hot, if that makes sense. It's what I would expect a hot soup to be, as opposed to just slightly warm. So for me, on the soup test, it has to be the Optimum G2.1.